Hi, everybody. Lalitha, Donatella, Rubik, and I are here again to talk with you about astrology. Hello, Lolita. How are you doing today?
Hi Gary, I'm great. How are you?
I'm very well. We were talking before we came on about the peacock behind your head
Oh,
there.
yeah.
The peacock, not the literal peacock, but the painting behind your head. And actually, it forms a little bit of a crown for you. Can
Really?
you, yeah, yeah. So can you explain, essentially what that does and what the symbology means to you? And then we'll talk about Jupiter because we did get a request to talk about Jupiter.
Yes, absolutely. I love to talk about the peacock because it's supposed to be one of the most auspicious symbols in the Vedas, in Vedic astrology, even in Ayurveda, if I remember. But all the Vedic sciences, arts, whichever you prefer, are connected with these deities. And these deities very often are associated with birds or animals, etc. For example, Durga is always sitting on a tiger or
Mhm.
sometimes on a Leo, on a lion, sorry,
Yep,
a Leo. And then uh, Lord Vishnu sits on Garuda, who's an eagle, right?
right.
Gary? And then we have Muruga, one of my favorite, and he's always sitting on a peacock.
Yep,
So the peacock is associated with Vishnu, but also with Krishna, who is an incarnation of Vishnu. And they have different personalities and they rule different things, but pretty much they are one and the same. And the peacock being very auspicious, not so much as a vehicle for them, but as a symbol of purity, as a symbol of power, a symbol of
yep.
victory. So a lot of positivity is associated with the peacock. And there was this very talented painter who is from Germany, and she made this beautiful peacock, and I totally fell in love with it. So here it is.
Yeah, and I was talking about how essentially if you look at the peacock feathers, you have what seem to be a lot of eyes looking at you,
Really.
and that's also connected with a lot of with Varuna
Oh, Varuna. Yes, yes, you mentioned. Can you please tell us a little bit?
and Varuna's the cosmic deity. He's often most strongly connected um, uh, with astrology because essentially he was the ruler of the gods before Indra was, and both there are mythologies connected with both, or stories connected. I would call them mythology stories connected with both Varuna and Indra about them having 1,000 eyes. So they can see the good and bad deeds of human beings,
And they protect
and
us, right?
they protect us, and they also have a very strong connection with astrology because an astrologer essentially can look down and see uh, what what is happening and judge whether or not it's good or bad. Not that we're deities, but that we can
We have the light, right?
yeah, we have we share that light.
Yes.
uh, and uh, and there's also an idea connected of judgment. Varuna is sometimes connected to her Mazda, who I'm sure you've heard of.
I missed
Yeah.
that. Please
No, no,
repeat.
no, 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 I'm sorry, not a Her Mazda. Ashura Maya, my apologies. Her Mazda was a Zoroastrian deity, but Ashura Maya, who was essentially he was essentially one of the architects of the universe, but he was an Ashura.
He
He
was an
wasn't,
Asura originally,
yeah,
yes. In the
yeah,
Rig Veda, right?
yeah.
And he
And
rules water,
he was, he,
oceans, and
yep,
rivers, right?
yep. Uh,
Tell us a little bit more about this.
well, well, essentially, it's the ocean of consciousness. It's not just waters. It's essentially My Hindu name is actually Gangadhar.
Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful. Ganga, from the Ganga.
from the and the
Wow.
and the idea is that's the incarnation of or that's the version of Shiva you see, where essentially you see the mouth of the Ganges flowing water over him. So it's essentially the Ganges is supposed to represent the Milky Way and all the stars in the sky.
And
So
it's also a symbol of purification,
yeah,
all this water, right? Because we bathe to purify, right?
yep, exactly,
And not
exactly.
only to cleanse, but also to
Yeah,
purify.
yeah, yes. So everything, at least in the Indian spiritual system, Sanatana Dharma connects in some way, shape, or form back to astrology in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
An integral part, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
The task of liberation. And for liberation, we normally seek out a guru or a teacher. So we're going to talk about the guru
Yeah,
planet nowadays, Jupiter or Angiras, or there are several other names, but those are the two, or Brihaspati. Those are the three most commonly used names. So Lalitha, I'm going to turn it over to you, and what we're going to do is give like an overview of them, and also things to watch out for in expecting in what we can expect from Jupiter as opposed to what we wish Jupiter were. So
right.
yeah, okay, so
That's a good point because we want Jupiter to be something that we can, benefit from, right?
yeah,
Like all
yeah,
the planets. And that's not a bad thing.
yeah,
Actually, not all planets have only one side, but because you're going to say what's a little bit trickier about them, I'd rather start with the good things of Jupiter.
sure,
How's that?
sure,
Does it
that's
sound good?
fine. That sounds great because
Yeah,
Jupiter does give us lots of good things.
absolutely, yes. So being the great benefic, don't get alarmed. If you're new to Vedic astrology, we use terms. Benefic, of course, means beneficial, benevolent, loving, pure, dharmic. Dharmic is our highest path, right? Is duty, is righteousness, is doing the right thing. So Jupiter rules all this, and he is the planet most associated with spirituality, the guru. The guru means what? Ru means the remover, and gu means we can also say gooey, like gooey, right? It means darkness. So the guru removes darkness. What happens when you remove darkness? There's light, right? They're literally opposite. And I know there's a big tendency nowadays to say embrace your darkness. I don't know about that. That's a new age idea. I don't want to,
Yeah.
don't want to do a controversy here. But be careful how you embrace that darkness
You
because
can
it's
acknowledge it. You can acknowledge it, but
acknowledge it, but get out of it as fast
yeah,
as you
yeah,
can
yeah,
because we don't
yeah,
have time to waste, basically. We think
yeah.
we have time, and we sometimes postpone, oh, I will grow up next year or in 2 years. No, don't dwell on the darkness. It's not that cool as it may seem because it can give some pleasure, right? Darkness is associated with excesses of all kinds, including psychedelics. Okay, I'm not a big fan of these things, so
Yeah.
I apologize if that offends
No,
anyone.
no, no.
That's all.
I think you make a good point. I apologize for interrupting you, but
No, no, no problem.
I think it can also lead us towards tamasic tendencies.
Yes, exactly. Confusion.
So essentially, it makes us lazy, a little bit lazy, and we say, well, this is how I am as I go for my fifth beer. So it's something that you acknowledge and say, yes, I have these weaknesses, and I will fight. You must fight, Arjuna, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So you have to fight to control these things, not to revel in them.
Embrace them. Don't
Yeah,
embrace anything.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
acknowledge, be alert,
yeah,
aware. And then you can transcend whatever is not serving you in the light. So the light is literally a path. If you don't choose that path, that's okay, because there are all kinds of paths,
Sure.
but just be honest about what you're choosing.
Yeah.
The light means anything that serves the good for all, like being of service to humanity means light. The light is the truth. You cannot really embellish the truth so much. True that there isn't an objective reality, right? The quantum physics also says there's not an objective reality, but we have a path that is being highlighted by all these great teachers who had our best interests at heart. So they didn't want us to get lost, because confusion is very easy in the physical body. The
Right.
senses are not as good as they are for animals, even. The birds can see better than we do. Dogs can hear better. They have better sixth sense or whatever, third
Better
eye.
sense of smell, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
better sense of smell. So the
Yep.
senses cannot always be trusted. All right, so I would say that the guru points to the light, and he is the Dev Guru, the teacher of the gurus, right, in the form of Brihaspati. So it's interesting, for example, that Brihaspati also rules a nakshatra of Saturn. And Brihaspati so rules Pusha nakshatra, and this nakshatra is considered by the Siddhas hands down the most auspicious. I don't know why, but there are many reasons actually that I know, and there may be some subtle ones that they haven't revealed to us, right?
Yeah. The only one that's not good for is marriage. That's the only.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So, because it's Saturn, but it can
Yeah.
bring a
Yep.
solid, long-lasting relationship. Maybe not the most exciting relationship you may think of. So I apologize, because if I turn on the AC in here, it's going to be very noisy. So I may have to get some air, some fresh air. Okay. So the other thing about Brihaspati, Tai Pusam, Pusham, it's pronounced, or some in Tamil Nadu they call Pusam. So Tai Pusham is the day of Muruga. It's a very auspicious day when he was able to defeat all these asuras, three of them, very dangerous rakshasas. And he received from his mother the veil, some say a sphere of light. So what did he do? He brought the light. He defeated the demons of darkness, ignorance, greed, hatred, violence, everything, right? And he won and restored the light. So Brihaspati being associated with Muruga, I like that very much. So that means that Jupiter and Muruga are somewhat associated, because that's the Thai month in January, February. In Tamil Nadu, that's what it is. So let's talk again about Jupiter. I love Jupiter. Why? Because on Jupiter days, you can feel anything is possible. You
Yes.
have that world, right? World of infinite possibilities. Infinite possibility means you really are infinite. You're God. You remember that you're
Yep.
divine. Maybe not in so many words, but you feel it.
Yep.
Like you cannot stop yourself. Somebody has to say, okay, enough. Because you feel you can reach for the stars.
Yep.
Right? So I like that very much, that expansive. So I want to read a few significations from the KP uh, astrology method. So Krishnamurti Padati, right? So the usual ones that you already know, Jupiter, it's children, it's wealth, it's all kinds of wealth, not
Yep.
just material wealth, but also spiritual wealth. So all the things with which you can benefit in your life and have success and even fame. Fame is associated with Jupiter more than other planets. Some people say Venus. Venus too, maybe in the entertainment world, in the media, etc. But Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter are very much associated with fame, sometimes Rahu, and Saturn if you are achieving. But Jupiter brings you that good reputation, right? It
Right.
brings you fame for all the right reasons. And also, what else can I say? It's a planet that wants you to transcend ultimately you enjoy all these beautiful things, and then that's enough. Let's enjoy something else. The space.
Yep.
He rules the space, therefore the highest intelligence, according to the Siddhas. I know that in the West we like to criticize Jupiter because there are some aspects in some birth charts that are not beneficial. In my view, Jupiter in Capricorn doesn't give the best spiritual paths, but I could be wrong. Some people follow their own and they succeed. Um, there is a writer, his name is David Wilcock. He has contributed a lot of interesting information, and he has Jupiter in Capricorn. So he has his own, but he does criticize gurus and spiritual teachers in a way that very vocal, right? In
Yep.
that, so that's very much a Jupiter in Capricorn. So, but otherwise, I respect him very much. I like his books. All right. So another way that Jupiter can mm, give bad results, definitely in the eighth house, in my view. Unless the rest of the chart is so amazingly supportive and pure and perfect that maybe everything works well. But I've seen charts with people with all exalted planets and Jupiter being the ruler, ending it up in the eighth house, and that person gets confused sometimes with teachings and with the spiritual things. Maybe they meddle a little with magic versus the Sanatana Dharma, which is the Vedic path, right? The Rig Veda, what's there in those higher principles. Okay, so let me read real fast, and then I want to turn to
No, that's fine.
Gary.
Take
So,
take
yeah,
take your time. But if you feel warm, just give me a signal.
yeah, maybe I should turn on the AC after all. But I do have a sensitive microphone, so I didn't want to make a boo like the wind, right?
Right.
Pavana. Okay, so let me read a few of these. I liked them very much when I first saw them because they're accurate, and also a few more that I wouldn't have expected. Actually, they're all pretty much what we consider. But long journeys, sometimes I forget that Jupiter is associated with long journeys. And the other thing I want to remind everybody about Jupiter and Venus, Jupiter in signs of Venus has never been my favorite. So why? Because they're really at odds with each other. Maybe they help very much in the material world. They bring a lot of good things. But Jupiter in Libra is very much interested in forming good relationships, maybe to benefit and to expand that section or the love relationship. And also in Taurus, obviously, it's all about making sure that there is a lot of financial stability, a lot of good things, jewelry, arts, artworks, all these beautiful things. So I'm not saying it's not a good place, okay? I'm just saying it doesn't give always the results of Jupiter. It gives good results for other reasons. All right, so remember that Venus is the guru of the Asuras, and it doesn't change very much unless it's in Pisces and Jupiter is well placed. Right? So that's pretty much my conclusion on that. And of course, I stay open because you never know. Also, personally, I like a lot the association with Jupiter and Mercury. They're supposed to be enemies. But today in Kali Yuga, when we need to talk and write and or do publicity or being in the marketplace or even write books, etc., we need a good Mercury and a good Jupiter, even for Vedic astrology, right, Gary?
Yes, it's true. Yep.
I saw that they help each other. And what else? And then, okay, so let me read these. Judicious choices. Cultivate steady habits. This is Jupiter, okay? So concentration. So rather than having a mind that runs all over the place, so you're focused on your spiritual goals and also your material goals. Material goals meaning a good job, a beautiful home, positive things for everyone, does good things to the family, like Brihaspati brings happiness in the home. And so children, the children are who are studious and good, loving, well behaved. Who doesn't want that, right?
Right, right.
you know. Okay, so concentration, meditation, prayer, enjoying providential help. So help from the divine, of course.
Yep.
Noble causes, benevolence, fruitful results, a nice jovial attitude, so polite, also good manners. I've seen they're very much associated with Jupiter, and sometimes diplomatic uh, careers, like where the person is high-minded, not the cunning ones. I'm talking about the high-minded diplomats, those who have the good of humanity in mind most of the time. So that would be it. I've worked in a diplomatic environment. I wasn't a diplomat for per se, but I've helped, in cultural affairs. I worked in this environment, and and I'm a Jupiter person, so I don't think that's a coincidence. So okay. All right, so then we have proper judgment. Proper judge. We're talking about a perfect Jupiter, okay?
Yep.
Now Gary will
Yeah,
explain.
It's Jupiter under ideal circumstances.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
correct. So proper judgment, lots of educational interests and long journeys. Now this I always forget. So long journeys and living in a foreign country. That are usually associated with Rahu. But look, Jupiter is also associated with this kind of foreign uh, placement, living, so traveling abroad, maybe for education. And that's very much my case. Obviously, I
Yeah.
don't live in my uh, motherland, but now the US is my motherland. But I'm from Italy. So yeah, I see that a lot because I use sometimes my example because I'm extreme in how much Jupiter is active in my birth chart. Okay, then sincere faith, selfless faith. Okay, so is loving. What does that mean? It means nothing convoluted, schemy, etc. Then we have a very deep emotional side. Maybe because of Pisces, I think, but also because it's goodness from the heart. Not so much like the moon, but it's that blessing everyone. So, you feel amazing about yourself, you bless others.
Yep.
So when people are suffering, usually they don't bless others so easily. They are usually turned within and they are suffering. All right. So what else can I say? Honesty, truthfulness, and sincerity, and a broad, yeah, I like that, broad-mindedness. Would always wonder, why is it that this person cannot see other people's point of view, or they cannot see another way of doing the same thing, or why can they see that there's this religion also has a lot of goodness,
Sure.
and
Sure.
or so that broad-mindedness is very important to stay happy and be loving.
Yep.
Loving at the very least, like an ethical. Okay, that's also part of Jupiter training. All right, what else? Respect, cooperation, peace, and prosperity. These are also Venus. A good Venus can bring that. Health and wealth and good conduct. Okay,
Yep.
now I turn it to Gary.
Yep.
And
And wanted to add a few things. I the only exception I had to what you said about Jupiter, and especially Jupiter and Libra, was what one of the best people I ever met. And I'll say him by name, Bill Levesey, who was a really well-known Vedic astrologer, had Jupiter and Libra in the first house.
yes, and this
And
the
he's,
chart
yeah,
is
yeah,
a
yeah,
four.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, there are exceptions to every rule. He did have very nice jobs, and he had material security, but he
Yeah.
was also one of the most spiritual and nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Very sweet
And
people,
yeah,
absolutely.
yes. And I have seen people with Jupiter and Capricorn turn out to be really, I would say they even overcompensate sometimes for um, they they bend over backwards
To help.
to help
Yes.
or to try to do the right thing, and that's
Trustworthy people, yes,
yeah,
very
yeah,
trustworthy people. Sometimes they're easily irritated with gurus and teachers and
yeah,
masters. They
yeah,
feel, no, we should transcend all that. You cannot
yeah,
transcend that at all.
yeah,
Otherwise, we get lost in the material
but no,
world
but,
or in Kali Yuga.
yeah,
Mhm.
but 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 the other thing is some of the people I've known that are really
Sweet.
extraordinarily dedicated to their teacher.
Really?
Yeah, so again, it's the concept of cancellation of debilitation actually
Yes, exactly.
makes the planet so they compensate for it, they overcompensate for it, perhaps.
Yes, yes.
Be, you know, so
Nietzsche Banga is number
yeah,
one
yeah.
way things change. Yeah.
So if you have that, so a Nietzsche manga, just for our audience, I was going to say for our studio audience, but just for our audience, Nietzsche manga is when another planet comes in and cancels out the fallen status of the planet in the sign. So essentially, let's say if you have Jupiter in Capricorn, but you also have Saturn in Sagittarius. That's a Parivartana Yoga. It's an exchange of lords that cancels the Nietzsche status of Jupiter to a certain extent. It's never totally, it's never totally wiped out, but it's modified.
90% though, no? You think?
I think it's modified significantly. Yeah,
Mm,
yes.
yeah.
So, so, so,
Sometimes,
yeah,
especially if there is an exalted planet
yep,
aspecting.
yep,
Um,
yep, yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah, yep. So you have, so let's say you have Venus in, so let's say you had Mars in Capricorn along with Jupiter. That would pretty much cancel it out. But the
yeah.
person would also be a little bit aggressive about listen to the teacher.
Yeah, that's never a good thing, I
Yeah,
find,
would
because
be
there
a little
should
bit strong.
be, ideally, what I love about Jupiter people, they know the protocol. They know how
Yeah,
to treat the guru. They have
yeah,
no, they don't, they don't push
yeah,
overly, they're not overly familiar. They kind of know their
yeah,
place. They have no delusions.
yeah,
They have no arrogance about what they
yeah,
know. And they're
yeah,
willing to learn, which is a great thing. We should
yeah,
always be beginners and
yeah,
keep our minds open, right?
yeah. But you're absolutely right. When you were talking about travel, the 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 longest trips I've taken, the biggest trips I've taken, when I was a kid, my family really wasn't a very rich family, but we we traveled to
Yeah.
Canada a great deal. So I live in the northeastern United States, as you know. I live near Boston. I don't live near Boston. I actually live closer to Rhode Island, which is a different world. But basically, we would often go to Toronto, Canada. We go on long trips for summer vacations.
Toronto is really
And,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, and when I answered Saturn, that largely went away. That died almost entirely. And I had one trip to England, and then for like around, I would say until I answered my Mercury Mahadasha,
Mm.
I hardly traveled at all except for
Really?
business purposes.
And yet your
Yeah,
Mercury is in Virgo,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
yeah, 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 yeah,
thing,
yes,
right?
yeah. So Mercury is in its own sign in the 12th house. So yeah, I'm going to travel during a Mercury Mahadasha, of course. And I went over to Turkey during a Venus Jupiter subgrade. So 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 essentially Jupiter is my travel trigger in my chart. A lot of other times I want to go places, but I just for some reason or other I either can't find a reason to go or I find some excuse not to go or something else. But Jupiter subgrades do tend to be that trigger, and it's again level of diplomacy. I was actually, and I don't want to make this too much about myself, but people with strong Jupiters can seem to get along with almost everybody. It doesn't mean everybody's going to love them, but
They're
they can.
universal
Yep.
well-wishers,
You
so that makes them kind of attractive, right?
Yep.
Instead of find a veto
Yep.
here, a problem there, no, I
Yep.
don't like you because of your hair color, or your
Yep.
skin, or your religion. So
Yep.
it's
Yep.
better to be
Yep.
well-wisher.
Yep.
Yeah,
So Jupiter does have that.
we are like that. Yeah.
Jupiter does have that kind of a grace to it. And I always love people from other countries. It's really, I don't
Me
dislike
too.
people.
Since I was a child. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't dislike people from my own country, but I love meeting people from other countries and finding out
Same
about them.
here. I used to pretend I was English.
Yeah,
When I was a little girl,
yeah,
I was just studying English when I was little. I had a tutor in the beginning. Then I went to school, and like in first grade, there we already had English. So I was always pretending when I was with my mom and she was with her friends. I would always speak English to her, and her friends would ask, "Why is your daughter speaking
yeah,
English to you?"
yeah. So,
Because I loved that. I wanted to.
it gives that wonderful search for knowledge.
Yeah.
So usually people with strong Jupiters and I would say strong Venuses are always curious. They always want to know more.
Yes. Gracious, very
Yeah,
gracious.
yes. So
Jupiter is always
they're both teaching planets, and
absolutely, yeah. Both.
and they're both teaching and learning planets. And uh, but the things you have to watch out for a little bit uh, with Jupiter is essentially you can. I don't want to say you can be tricked out of your own best interest, but I always love the story about Bali. And Bali was this um, Ashura who had acquired a great deal of power by spiritual merit, actually. And he was a very
Bali, the brother of Sugri.
yeah, and he essentially rose to become king of the universe. He supplanted Indra. Indra,
Did Bali?
yeah,
Ah,
Bali,
I
yeah,
didn't
Bali,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
He was
So,
a monkey faced being, right?
oh no, he
A
was in
different
Ashura.
Bali?
He was in Ashura. He
Yeah.
uh,
So
he's referred to in um,
Ramayana.
not necessarily in the Ramayana. He's referred to as um, the entity. Shukra was his guru, and he's referred to. So they have the incarnations of the planets through uh, the incarnations of Vishnu, excuse me, through through the planets. And
Was he killed by Rama?
no, he wasn't killed by Rama. He
A
was
different kind.
no, I, you know, it wasn't.
I'm
I mean,
talking about different Bali. It was the brother. It was a king. It was the brother of
yeah,
Sugri. Sugri became friends with Rama, and Rama and Bali became very evil and tried to
yeah,
kill each other and take away
yeah,
his
yeah,
properties and wife. And so
yeah,
Rama had to kill him.
yeah. This is a different one.
I mean,
So
that could
yeah,
be different
but
aspects. So
but 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 but
different.
there is an incarnation of one of the most fascinating parts of Parashara is there's a section in Briha Parashara Shastra which talks about the incarnations of God of Vishnu through the planets,
Mhm.
and so Narashima um,
Mars.
is Mars, Sun is Rama, Moon is Krishna, but Jupiter is this little priest, and I think that's where I'm getting confused. And this
I see. He is an umbrella, right?
yeah, yes, that's right.
Ramana,
Yeah,
Ramana,
yeah,
I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
And he's very auspicious, actually. He brings a
yeah,
lot of wealth.
but
Mm.
basically he came up to this king, and actually he was a very good king. One of the reasons that he succeeded in taking over for Indra was because Indra and his court had become complacent. they were
They're party. My
they,
guru calls them party animals. He doesn't mean
yeah,
anything bad
yeah,
because he's a
so
very mild, sweet-spoken guru, my
yeah,
teacher. But
so
it means that they love to dance and
yeah,
music and all these nice things, right?
yeah.
So they got a little carried away.
So Shukra taught him all the right penances to do, and he acquires spiritual merit.
Vamana, yeah.
And
Sorry,
uh,
I'm checking the Vamana thing to see
yeah,
what's because I could have the wrong name.
mhm, okay,
Vamana.
no,
No,
that's
yeah,
fine.
correct. So the fifth of the 10 incarnation.
Yeah, yep,
We haven't seen the 10th yet,
yep,
right?
that's right.
I'm
That's
still
Kalki,
waiting.
Kalki.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but but basically, uh, Indra's mother was very unhappy that her son had been had been replaced, and she went to Vishnu and he said, "Okay, I'll see if I can get your son reinstated." And he couldn't really send, so Hiranyakashipu was very violent. He oppressed people, so he could justify tearing him apart with Mars. But Bali had done. I'm sorry. This particular Ashura was actually good. He was as good as the gods were supposed to be, maybe better. Okay, as an individual, because everybody was everybody was happy. Everybody enjoyed as much as they wanted to. They had nobody wanted for anything. So he came with the
There's
king.
no evil, there's no
Yeah,
poverty,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
nobody
yeah,
does anything
yeah, yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So so so
Beautiful.
so essentially Jupiter came, or Jupiter, Vishnu to Jupiter came down and say, and 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 actually this king said to him, "Oh, I have a Brahmin visiting me. What can I give you as a gift?" And he said, "Oh, I don't want anything. I just want enough land to cover 3 steps."
Oh, yeah.
And he said, "What harm can come from that?" And Shukra immediately knew who it was and said, "Don't do it. It's fish. It's it's Vishnu. You're going to lose your entire kingdom." And he said, he said, "I've made the offer. I've given my word." And he said, I can't break my word now."
Very nice.
So
It became huge,
he
right?
became enormous. So that's another attribute of, 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 of Jupiter, right? It's a huge planet. It's the largest planet in the solar system. Okay, and all this, and so one step covered Earth, another step covered heaven. And he said, "I have no place else to go." And Wally said, "Put your last foot on my head." And uh, and supposedly he blessed him so
Mhm.
much that he thought this act was so good. He said, "You'll become Indra in the next
Nation.
incarnation of the universe."
Oh, okay, okay. So, well, same thing happened with Ravana. He got the blessings of
Yeah,
Shiva,
yeah,
but he misused them.
yeah,
And same with Brahma's gifts. And
yeah.
so it really, yeah, maybe originally they
So,
were that he
so,
will,
so,
they
so
got
essentially,
arrogant, right?
so essentially, I, I guess one of the cautionary notes is that doing the right thing can sometimes cost you your kingdom. It can cost you
Yeah,
it can cost you your worldly place. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it,
yeah,
but
yeah. So there isn't a personal advantage, but you still have to do it, right?
yeah, you still have to do it.
Since I was
All right,
little, I had to do things that sometimes I didn't want to do, but I knew it was the right thing.
all right,
And I never regretted it. And
yeah,
actually, I regretted the times when I didn't do that. They were
yeah,
rare, but I did. And then I
yeah.
didn't work out. And then I wasn't happy.
So, I think there's a tendency among certain astrologers I've met and also certain people I've met to assume that Jupiter's kind of a Santa Claus. Essentially, I asked for this, the Jupiter period will come, and I'm going to get it. exactly what I asked for, and you're not going to get exactly what you asked
right?
for.
And
You're going to get
yeah,
what's best for all, basically.
exactly.
And yeah,
Mhm.
and sometimes what will happen also is, I also knew a woman who was sick with cancer, and she was actually doing well during her Rahu period, but her Jupiter was afflicted. In fairness, her Jupiter was afflicted, but she just wanted to see her son complete law
Finally.
school. She wants to see her son complete law school and pass the bar.
Mhm.
That was what
Wow.
she wanted to see because that was his dream.
Did she love?
And she lived long enough to see that. Then the Jupiter period came, and she left the Earth.
Mm.
So so,
Yeah, I can see that why it
yeah.
can happen.
So
And think about the 2020 Jupiter and Ketu that caused a
yep,
virus. It can expand things you don't want to expand.
yep, yes. So these are things that initially don't look so good. They would initially be like, Jupiter's, excuse my language, Jupiter sucks. But basically, it's not. It's really not here to say, okay, you wanted this toy, Gary, and you got this toy, and you got this. You're going to learn what you need to learn about yourself or about people. So that doesn't mean it never gives good things. Oftentimes it'll open up opportunities to you. It'll open doors for you to walk through freely, and that's is blessing. So it doesn't act malefically, but if it's afflicted, sometimes, and this is where you have to be careful, and this is where you need the advice of an astrologer. So let's say it has a Saturn aspect on it, or let's say it has a Mars aspect on it, or let's say it has even has a Venus aspect on it. It can create pessimism. So Saturn aspects Jupiter. Jupiter period is going to be like, I'm going to have to give up this thing which I love, but it's this period, so I guess it's for the best. When sometimes you can just say, well, I can do that later on. So Saturn also says let's delay. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to give it up permanently.
Sure.
Mars can mean, well, I have to fight. Well, no, you can maybe work a little bit harder on
Mars
yourself.
always want to take some extra
Yeah,
steps.
yeah,
Sometimes are not
yeah.
necessary.
And Venus can also say, well, anything's possible, and I can do anything, which is theoretically true, but in actuality, tough to do.
Yes, yes, definitely. But
Mm.
also just let it go because
Yeah,
it's nicer and because I really don't want to work very hard and I want to relax and I
yeah,
want to
yeah,
be happy, want to
yeah,
enjoy. And
yeah,
so
so, yeah,
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 there's a push and pull with
yeah.
Venus. Yeah.
So I think that sometimes, and also there's kind of a cardinal rule that I use in terms of Jupiter transits,
Mm.
and Jupiter, and so many times when I do readings for people, I'll say, well, Jupiter's moving, at least Jupiter's moving out of this house, out of your eighth house. Let's say it's really, it'll start to open up things for you. But normally, at least from experience, and this is backed up by some of the things I've read through the years as well,
Mm.
benefics tend to be strongest in the middle of a sign. So you're not going to see the full blossoming
Not right away.
of a benefic until it's around 10 degrees at least,
Please,
or
those
close there.
first 3 degrees are, I find them almost useless.
Yep, yep,
I don't, okay, that's extreme, but definitely will not give the full results,
yep.
especially because they're not auspicious degrees, right?
That's
First
right. That's
degrees
right.
or second
And,
degrees are
and, and,
important and
the,
time to be.
yeah, and the last 3 degrees, as a matter of fact, it's baby. They call it baby or ages status if it's within the first six or the last 6 degrees, according to the rules of
Yeah,
Jyotish.
right.
So,
Even a
so
malefic that is nicely placed in the middle of a sign can give sometimes better results.
yeah, oh yeah, sure. It'll give more work,
Yeah.
or it'll give more misery.
More growth, more spiritual
Yeah,
growth,
yeah. So,
more
so,
maturity, more.
so, so I think if you hear from any astrologer, including myself, that all your problems are going to be cured when this planet moves out of the sign. Saturn actually, that's actually to a certain extent that's true, because when Saturn's at its strongest when it's in the last degrees of a sign. So you're gonna get your biggest wailing from Saturn during the last 10 degrees of the sign.
During works
Yeah,
sometimes. Yeah.
and that's also true of Mars, and to a lesser extent Rahu and Ketu. But but basically,
It's a toughie, and it really depends on the dignity of the planet.
yeah, exactly.
But
But
I really consistently see a lot of foul play with
oh yeah,
Jupiter conjunction.
yeah,
And of course, it depends on the degrees. But in general, if we want to make a rule, and this calls
yeah,
for
yeah. So
general rules,
yes,
it's very difficult. Get the remedies, get the blessings
yes,
from the guru,
yeah,
lower your ego. It's not going to benefit you in the long run. It's going
yeah,
to destroy things. Yeah.
yeah.
Affect
So
things.
I think you can definitely use Jupiter's energy to learn additional things, to enrich yourself, to advance yourself, to grow yourself spiritually.
Can I give you
I
an example, please, before we move on?
Okay,
So
sure.
just want to give an example, like how it works, because sometimes giving examples is very important. So I know a woman who is very inspirational to me. She's so beautiful. She does everything in an amazing way, um, uh, brainy, but also pretty kind of entertaining style of teaching, etc. She's not a Vedic astrologer, but she's a spiritual teacher, and I like almost everything about her. But then you see Jupiter, Rahu conjunction close in Leo. There is so much showmanship, which sometimes we need, right, to be public and to express ourselves well.
Right,
But also it can be so overbearing.
right.
She's probably the only person I've ever heard since ever who said, when I get depressed, I go and listen to this meditation. It was her meditation. I was like, okay, that takes a lot of courage to go ahead and say, when I get depressed, I listen to my own meditations. It's not typically what Jupiter would do, especially in Leo where it's well placed. And so, but with Rahu, that can happen. There's a lot of, whatever sign is in the background, there's a hoarding of that one thing, and also some foul play. Brigu is not subtle about this. It calls much falsehood, like in Sagittarius or in other Jupiter, for example, in Pisces, it can cause a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
So definitely the remedies, I'd like to talk about those if you have some time to talk about them.
sure, sure. Let's talk about the remedies a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, but 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 I think that at least and I've also noticed that about Rahu conjunctions. Rahu tends to Rahu, and to a lesser extent Ketu. Ketu is more like a shooting star. It's really,
Yeah, not
so
bad.
it is so essentially Ketu will give this sudden peak of activity, and it won't die out quickly, but it'll give a sudden and unexpected rise. My favorite chart for that example is Jimmy Carter, who got elected president during his Ketu Mahadasha.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yes. But he also
Where is Ketu? Where is Ketu in his chart?
K2's in his fourth house.
Fourth
He's
house.
He's a Libra rising. He's a Libra rising.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's Libra ascendant is amazing. I like
yeah,
it.
yes.
That's
So
your ascendant, Libra,
yeah,
Saturn.
he's Libra, and Saturn, I believe, was in his first house.
Okay.
Okay,
So you are also a Libra ascendant, right?
yeah, yes.
My guru, Dr. Pillai, also is a Libra.
Okay,
So I find the best lives are those who have easier lives, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think in Carter's case,
Easier
he,
means good
yeah,
both.
so this is this is again probably before you were born, but basically he had he came out of nowhere. Basically, everybody was saying,
Yeah,
again, the favorite joke was Shimmy Who.
yeah, I also lived in Italy at that time, so I don't
Yeah,
never
so
traveled
yeah,
to that.
yeah, so
Yeah,
no, yeah, so
like with
nobody,
you, no?
yes, yeah, so
That was
nobody,
before your time in
yeah,
college, wasn't it?
so nobody had ever heard of him before he ran for president. I mean, literally nobody had ever heard of him. And but
Okay.
again, K2 can humiliate as well. That's the problem.
Oh
So
yeah,
so you can give that
it
rise
brings problems. Yeah.
and also that fall. But it did trigger his Saturn because it was in Capricorn. K2 was in Capricorn.
Mm.
So and the fourth house can give a rise in status.
It will also expands the thing.
Yeah,
So there can be expertise, but also letting go, not caring so much
yeah,
about those things. And so
yeah,
it can help with spirit, with a spiritual path. So we don't become overly attached
yeah.
in
But
the one thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
but Rahu needs to draw attention to itself, as you said.
Okay.
Rahu needs to be seen.
Rahu
Yeah,
Leo can be difficult, really, because
yeah,
it's too much about the self.
yeah,
I mean, there's
yeah,
really an incapacity to understand others most of the time.
yep,
And there's sometimes a little bit of ferociousness.
right,
Well hidden because there's an actor there, to rule everything. So it's a fifth house.
yep,
So showmanship, performance artists are
yep,
ruled with that.
yep,
Cinematography,
yeah,
let's say
yeah,
it, right?
yeah,
It's all about
yes. So
action.
it's phenomenal if you're an entertainer or a politician, but
Yeah,
it can seem to be too much.
yeah.
Sometimes people with strong Rahu tend to be too much for me.
It
Just
draws
at a personal level.
attention. It draws
Yeah,
attention to, yes, to the
yeah,
person.
yeah. So, uh, all right. So do we want to talk about remedies now or in the
Yes.
future?
Or Jupiter, right?
Yeah. So all right, all right. So you can start with your remedies, and that's so. So please start. Let's start discussing
My
that.
favorite? Sure.
Okay,
So I like to say this. I learned it from my guru, Dr. Pillai. He says, I bow down for mercy and blessings. I offer my sincere prayers to the golden Jupiter who rides on a white elephant. And I find this imagery really beautiful and calming. So if you're panicking that you think that things are going wrong, etc., and maybe it's Thursday, so you want to honor the planet of the day always. So honor Jupiter and bow down. And you can also say simply, please be good to me today. And that takes what? Less than a second. It
yeah,
takes a nanosecond. So go ahead and ask for the blessings. And this planet is very benevolent. It will always bless you. All the planets will do
yeah,
that. All you need to do is acknowledge them, be humble and respectful, and try to be on the good side of the planet.
yeah,
So that's one quick way. Of course, I offer a lamp to a picture of Jupiter or statue. If you have, that would be ideal. So this statue, I need to say this over and over because to me it's very important. We have been misled or confused accidentally. We don't have this problem with idolatry in
yeah,
Vedic astrology. So idolatry is a judgment, and actually the being you're trying to contact will enter the statue. So it's very beneficial for you to contact the being through an image, right? So
yeah,
here I like this statue, for example, very, very much. And it is Agastya, the greatest Siddha, Mahasiddha. And he had of course, supernormal powers. He could lift mountains, shrink them, and whatever. He had supernormal. Now he's the North Star. Dr. Pillai has revealed. So what happens with a statue? You bow down. You don't even have to. Your culture doesn't allow to bow down, but at least mentally think, okay, I'm asking for your blessings. I don't know everything. I'm humble. Please bless me and let me know this one thing, or help me with achieve this, and or bless my wife, my husband, my children, my mother, or my father, or my students, or you can literally get a lot of goodness, even with your clients, if
Sure.
you're a Vedic astrologer like you are. So you can always ask for the blessings for the person who has contacted you, who is suffering because of that planet. So
Yeah.
with Jupiter, same thing. So you offer that, you can wear yellow if Jupiter is a benefic for you. For Gemini, I would recommend it if you're an ascendant Gemini because it's not healthy for the body. But for the moon, that's fine.
Mhm.
I think not as bad. And so Gemini moon can wear some yellow, and especially because it rules what the 10th house, right?
Right.
Right. Then what else? You can offer. Oh, this is easy for everybody. A package, a pack of turmeric,
Yep.
curcumin, right? You can offer it to a priest or to your teacher, or just donate it to the poor.
Yep.
So that one simple thing can help a lot, especially if you're undergoing Jupiter in the 8th house. Or also just if you're trying to do, you're a Jupiter person, maybe you have the moon ruled by a nakshatra of Jupiter, like Punarvas and Vishaka, etc. And you can ask for the blessings when you start that action. All right, so this is
Okay.
in a nutshell. Now I want to hear from
Yeah.
you.
All right. All right. One thing that I found extremely beneficial when I was starting out off as an astrologer is I would often help people with their mantras, you know, so or or
Mantra.
or with propitiation of the planets.
Mhm.
And usually for Jupiter, it was so sometimes we would invite priests down to our store from the local Hindu temple. They would come down every Thursday. Also, this was years ago. So we stopped that practice mainly because, well, mainly for two reasons. They were quite willing to come down, but it was a long trip for them from where they were, and and we also had people who really weren't um, being very generous with them, when they went back. And
Yeah,
uh,
that's one thing. Be generous with priests if you
yeah,
want the
yeah, yeah,
blessings of
yeah, yeah,
Jupiter,
yeah. So
or it backfires. Yeah.
yes, so I mean, the amount of money they were getting wasn't even covering their gas, so that really wasn't fair to them. And they didn't complain. I'm sure they would have still kept on coming down.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's terrible. Deduction has to be fair, right?
yeah. But
Always.
eh, but uh, but also but also my schedule changed radically around 2000, and I just couldn't quite do it anymore. However, one thing we did do with them as well was we used to do what we call group chants, and Jupiter loves groups. Right? It's one of the attributes. So essentially, if you if you if you like groups of people, so even a simple mantra like Om Gulan Guling Gulon Sadguraya Namaha.
And I even shorter Om Gurave Namaha. If
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yep, yep.
anything you know, yes.
Yeah. So 108, and we light. Yeah, we put some yellow around, like either light a yellow candle or light some ghee and some sandalwood incense, or there are a variety of incenses, and that would actually work wonders for people. We had a lot of teachers coming in. We had a lot of interest in that. So I think one of the things that I noticed about that was that that essentially, so I wasn't acting like a guru. That wasn't the idea. It was essentially just trying to say, okay, well, this is a remedy. If I'm proposing a remedy, I should at least show you how it's done. I should at least
Very
engage
good.
engage in the process with you. So if you want to come in and do this mantra with me, you're welcome to do it. If I have like two or three people doing it every Thursday, and it's usually better to do it obviously on a waxing moon, so you can get the benefit of the
Okay.
moon's energy.
The moon is more auspicious, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So essentially, that was something that I learned really from one of my very first astrology readings. And as you said, you remember all the planets. So essentially,
Mhm.
when I'm doing a round, when I'm either reading my kriyas or doing something, uh, I'll try to engage every planet in the
So, yeah.
in the
And
process.
they're alive, they're beings, so they're
Yeah,
really not,
yeah,
inert. They're
yeah,
conscious.
yeah,
They're they even have a human form.
yeah,
Dr. Pillai said the Siddhas can see that.
yeah,
So they do wear those colors, they do look like that. And so look at the imagery, that helps a lot, right?
yeah. Yes, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I think, and it's just very odd because you actually get certain signs that um, the remedies are working, and they may show up in the most odd ways. So let's say um, you'll have more children surrounding you. It's just a Jupiter symbol, or you'll have more students coming your way, or you'll have um, or you'll have more food thrown at you. It's just
Yeah, even the yes,
yeah,
the
yeah, 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 yeah,
waistline is
yeah, yeah,
expanded
yeah,
too,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. These are all Jupiterian
Yeah,
symbols.
people can gain weight during Jupiter
Yeah, yeah.
Mahadasha.
So, so that's the only, and like I said, that the drawback, the single drawback to that is especially with persons weight conscious, too much Jupiter can be detrimental.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially kapha types. So kapha means the water element, the heavier
yep,
one in
yep,
Ayurveda.
yep,
So what are those? Jupiter, Scorpio, Pisces, Scorpio, and the Cancer, when
yeah,
they tend to gain weight and they don't have a lot of fire, they
yes,
can easily become, yeah, a little overweight with Jupiter. So you have to watch
yeah.
those
But
transits.
but but
Right?
I got all sorts of weird things where I would lose jobs and be offered better jobs. It's just it's
Oh,
just
good.
it was just so so I
That's
so I
interesting. Yeah.
so I think I think I think one of the things to do is keep is when you're doing the remedies and again giving benefits to priests, giving to children's homes, giving
Yes,
to
right. The children, education to children,
education,
pay for their
giving
education. Yeah.
giving
Mhm.
even giving
Charity is
to
huge.
educational charities, right? Or people,
Charity is a
yeah,
blessing for every planet.
yeah, every
Uh,
planet, yeah. So,
so, of course,
yes,
there are different ways. Saturn will be the elderly people or disabled people,
yeah,
and Jupiter will be children or students. Also, one thing, don't disrespect your teachers. You
yep,
can disagree mentally, but always be respectful and try to understand why that is happening. Don't go out there and trash your teacher. It's not going to benefit you. There's a Shiva curse,
yep,
especially if you disrespect somebody who practices Jyotish with truthfulness, right? So
yep,
make sure that you don't go because there's a
yep,
huge Shiva curse for those who insult Jyotishis, right?
yep. So, and I think that's the important thing. So there's,
Don't self-serving only. Of
yep,
course,
yep,
I
yep,
also like to be I like to be, to receive proper respect, but I'm saying in general, that's how it is. So
yeah,
don't do that yourself.
yeah,
You'll be born with Jupiter and Capricorn aspected by some malef.
yeah. And I think that I think there's always obviously you can always go to a temple if there's a Hindu temple in your area and ask for
Mhm.
uh, and ask for so one of the temples that's close by me actually has a Navgraha shrine. They actually have a 9 planet shrine.
Oh, good.
Not every temple has those, but you can
No,
you
but
can
then
maybe
another, if you have it nearby, go and pay respect to the planet of the Mahadasha.
Yep.
And on Thursdays, you can always pray to Jupiter.
Yep.
Guru Purnima. Can we say
Yep.
something about
Yep.
Guru Purnima?
Sure.
It's
Sure.
the most important day of the year to receive the blessings of your Guru.
Guru. Yep.
So nowadays we think, okay, why do I need a guru? I'm independent. I don't believe. That's fine. But remember that we don't know anything about the subtle plane unless we're blessed. We really don't see anything other than our skin and our material world. And it's so limiting, right? It's very limited because everything happens on a subtle plane. Even your thoughts, you don't see them, but of course you take action on them and you change your life. That's huge.
Yeah.
So they're very important. Anything subtle. So the guru can do what God cannot do directly to you. So if you meet your guru and you meet the divine, you first bow to your guru. That's how important that figure is for you, because he's an incarnation of God, right? A
Yep.
good guru. I'm not talking about the few charlatans that have spoiled the show for everybody, but the
Yeah.
real gurus, the real teachers, the real masters who come here and they want to help us. So to
Yes.
refuse that help is like coming back 2 or 3 more times to learn that lesson,
Oh yeah.
or maybe hurting children, hurting somebody who practice Vedic sciences, who is a good person, not an evil person. That's
Yeah. And,
a different story. Yeah, don't do that
yeah.
yourself.
And the interesting thing, at least that I found in my experience, is that even though there's one primary guru you would have, there are several what are called upa gurus or little gurus who
Yeah.
come into your life. So I've met some priests who are just extraordinary individuals, just totally selfless individuals,
Oh,
and
well,
they
those are the best. Yes.
yeah. So I mean, not from a power perspective, but just from a selflessness perspective. Okay.
Mhm.
And those individuals, if you receive a blessing from a pure person,
Mhm.
you'll get a great deal of bounty come into your life. Really, it's just it's
It's amazing what you can get with the guru, and
yeah.
but even from a good teacher, if you insult your teacher, I mean, and even if that's not your teacher, but is a teacher in their own right, and you
Yeah.
insult them, there's going to be some bad karma. And people
Yeah.
rationalize. In Kali Yuga, we have invented the art of finding excuses for ourselves. Like somebody who hurts a woman, they'll never get away with that. And then somebody who insults a teacher just because you disagree or you think they're not perfect enough for you and you want to trash them and ruin them. And then you're going to destroy your life. I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed. I've seen that many times. Yeah, people
Yeah.
spoil their
So
lives.
so it doesn't matter if you disagree with the guru. It just matters how you treat the guru. You don't
Exactly.
you don't have to accept everything that is said. As a matter of fact, it may be your job in this particular plane to learn from as many people as you can. Yeah.
Ideally, yes, but
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
one teacher with the divine incarnation, if you're lucky. I personally prayed for that kind of guru for 15 years. And I asked the one in my heart, the teacher who was my guru in my heart, was Paramahansa Yogananda. I asked him, I sent me a teacher like you. And I found one and I wanted a Siddha. It was non-negotiable and I never met one. And then finally I met one. For 2 years, I didn't even realize I felt those teachings were ideal for me. And I felt so much resonance
Sure.
in Kundalini experiences of the spine vibrating, etc. And then 2 years later, I realized he's a Siddha. Oh no, I didn't even know that. I wanted to know that the first, in the first meeting. So it was just amazing. Yeah, and receiving darshan, and then that changes your life, miracles,
Yeah.
all kinds of blessings and divine powers the teacher has when they're selfless and pure.
Right.
And other teachers have their own blessings. We don't have the right to trash those who are not
Yep.
enlightened just
Yep.
because you want
Yep.
to insult somebody else, just because you like them. It's not gonna work, right?
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. And and also kind of a cardinal rule I live by. You can learn something from everybody,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
So essentially everybody's your teacher, everybody's your guru.
Exactly. I always say you are my guru to this person for the one thing they're teaching me. And I'm sincere, I'm not pretending or not,
Yeah.
as they say, sucking up. I'm just saying, I appreciate that you're teaching me this, etc. That doesn't mean you're going to be my master,
No, no,
no, right?
no, no. So
There's a limit, but
yeah,
I appreciate everybody.
yeah,
But they
yeah.
think then these people, well, actually, I've said that sometimes the ego gets out of control and the person wants to rule over me. No, that's not how it is.
No, no.
There's one guru I respect, is my real guru, and the other teachers I respect, but they're not going to rule over me in any way
Yeah,
and form.
yeah. And I think, to be honest with you, a true teacher wouldn't even want to
A good teacher wouldn't want to rule, right?
rule. Yeah,
Right. Wouldn't want
yeah,
to insult or trash or hurt or
yeah.
demean. But there are some people like that.
Oh yeah.
They're still growing. They're still children.
Oh yeah. So and they'll find the teacher that's right for them.
Yes, they'll fall for some
Yeah.
teachers,
Mm.
kind of confused like them. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So I I I think this has been marvelous. So we
Yes, I love every minute, and I think we
yes,
went over time, right? What
yeah.
time is it?
I think so, but I think
It
people
was
might be
wonderful.
interested in this one because just because we're talking about things even a little bit beyond astrology.
I
Uh,
just loved it. And myths, I like Dr. Pillai's definition. They are eternal realities. So they're always relevant and they teach you a lot of things. And they're always fresh and new. And the subconscious knows what they mean. Even if you don't grasp all the details, etc., your subconscious, even in one word, like say Rama, things are being downloaded in your psyche.
okay. All right.
Anyway, thank you, Gary. It was lovely.
All right, it
See
was lovely.
you.
I have to run, everybody. Thanks very much,
Thank you so much.
Lalitha. Bye bye.
Thank you.